Harmonics, what's up? Welcome to a new advanced Ionic tutorial. Today we will build an Angular library with Ionic components that we can then reuse inside our Ionic application. So within that library we will add a component, a page, a service. We will do all the configuration. In the end we will actually also publish this package to NPM and then use it within our Ionic application during development actually at the same time. So in order to create your own library, you can use the Angular CLI. So make sure you install the Angular CLI, and then you can generate a new workspace first of all, and you specify that you don't want to create an application with this flag. Then you basically got a blank workspace for Angular projects, multi-projects, libraries, stuff like this. And then within your workspace, you can start by generating a new library. I would call my library devdectic lib. Call it whatever you want. Perhaps also use a prefix, since that allows to easily identify the components within your library. Then also generate two components. If you're using the Angular CLI, there's actually no page construct. That's basically an Ionic thing. So we will build this out into a page later. This will be just a little component that we can display. And then I also recommend you run the first ng build, which will create a folder dist with the name of your component. Navigate into that folder and run npm link. Once you do this, you will see a log like this, npm link, blah, blah, blah. And then you see there's a symlink created inside your local node modules to the dist devdectic lib folder or whatever you called it. And then we can use this local npm link within our Ionic application. That's actually the second thing I recommend you do. Just bring up a blank new Ionic application, nothing else included. And then let's close this for now and run npm link devdectic lib. Just by running this, you see now we got a symlink inside the node modules of our Ionic application to our local user node modules, and we see that this reference here has a symlink to the previously created dist folder in our new workspace. You will actually not see an entry inside your package.json for this. I think in the past this was possible, not sure why it's not possible anymore. And to fix a little issue with Angular, you need to open the Angular JSON file in your project, and you navigate down projects, app, architect, build, options, and then in here you insert preserve symlinks true. That helps to correctly set up your local symlink to the library, and then you can use it within your project. Let's take a quick look at our workspace again. Most of the work that we will do takes place in the project's devdectic lib folder. Here's the boilerplate code generated. We got a test file. No, let's not open this. We got a lib folder where we already see our custom card, the custom page, and some default files that are generated for our library. We also got the public API TS file, which basically exports all the relevant code from our library. And if we check out the lib module, you will already see the declarations. Currently, there's only one export for the devdectic lib component, which is basically like the standard component. And I think it's a good idea to first of all check out if this is actually working. Let me bring in my Ionic application. There we go. So let's try to use the devdectic lib component within our Ionic application. We will head over to our home page and we will edit just like a standard Angular component. And of course, that's not enough. We also need to open our home module and import the devdectic lib. Wow, I got code completion for this. I wasn't expecting this actually. But let's see. We saw the error we get when we don't import the module, and now we've already connected our Ionic application to our library. That's a great first success, I would say. After just a few, like before the 5-minute marks. It's rarely the case that you see any working code before the 5-minute mark in my videos, but never mind. Okay, let's continue with our library. So if we want to use Ionic components within our library, we also need access or we need to import the Ionic module, just like you're used to with standard Angular components. To import this, we also need to install it. And it's important to see we have a package.json at the top of our library, and we have a package.json here inside the devdectic lib. So what we want to do is we want to first of all navigate into our lib project and then run npm install for Ionic Angular. And we don't really want to install it like this. We first of all want to install it as a dev dependency. So let's open this and check it out. And within here, you will also see peer dependencies. Those are basically information for the project that consumes your package or library, that your library depends on these things. So if they're not already installed in the parent project, they will then be installed. And therefore, we're gonna put the block that was added to the dev dependencies also into the peer dependencies to make sure that our application is using Ionic, because otherwise it just won't work. Great. That's the preparation for this. Now we can continue with our lib, and actually we can now run ng build -- watch, or was it with just one watch? No, I think it was with two. So this will watch all the files in our library and trigger the build again. Which is funny because then our Ionic application will also reload, and we get a live reload for the development of our package, which is really cool. Don't mind this error. I think it's a node warning, or not a warning, it's actually a node error, but it was still working fine for me. So might fix this in the future, but I don't think it's related in general to our library. Let's open the public API because we also want to export now our newly created custom card. Page is for the last part of this tutorial. We will start with something easy for now. So that enables us to use the custom card already within our Ionic application. And no, that's not the one. Yeah, I knew this would happen. Too many Visual Studio Code windows. Instead of the devdectic lib, let's already give a try to our new component, which is the dev custom card. I think we should by now be able to show dev custom card is not a known element. Yeah, well, it's not easy. It's kind of bit complicated sometimes. We're exporting it here, but we're not yet exporting it within the main module of our lib. So let's put it in here as well, custom card component. And then actually, I think the app always reloads twice. Yeah, for the for the library, and then again for internal changes. But now we can see the custom card already works. Now, in a previous version, I also added information to the lib, so you can pass like a URL or some configuration value to your library. I think that's really important to understand how this works, and therefore we can use the libconfig service. Let's try injection token from Angular. We basically want to make sure that we can call our library inside the module with a for-root function, and then pass in a value that can be used within the module. For example, in the past we had a WordPress library, and in that case it always makes sure to just pass your basic URL for the WordPress instance to that library, and then the library can handle all the rest. And in your case you might have the same use case for different other internal functionalities. Let's also add the common module in here. Not sure if we're actually using it. Let's also use the HTTP client module. Of course, I get no code completion on that one. I definitely need a snippet one day for this, for the HTTP client module. And then we also add the Ionic module. Let's see if I get a warning as well, but Since we installed it, it should be fine by now already. Okay, we're exporting everything. We will actually remove the custom page since we will handle it a tiny bit differently in the end. And we'll just keep the card as a component in here. Now, to make sure that we can actually inject our API URL, we need to add the static for root functionality right here. This returns a module with providers, so we're gonna import that as well. And we also want to make sure that the devdectic lib service is included. So can you just do the code completion, please? There we go. This is just our lib service that we will provide, so our Ionic application can use the service and the components and everything. And then we also pass in the libconfig service, which uses the value of the config. It's a tiny bit tricky here. You see the typings connected with the API URL. So that's what we're gonna use in the end. You will see in the Ionic application how everything makes sense in the end. This is just the setup that we need in our library. Okay, great. Let's move on to the custom card component, because that was actually the easy one we want to test. And since we installed the Ionic module for our library now, or added it as a peer dependency, we can now use Ionic components in the Angular library. This is an example. Just use an Ionic card, header, title. We will access two values, which we can easily define as an input in the according TypeScript file here. So there we go. We got a custom card component with two inputs. We got the HTML using those inputs. Let's see if we can make this work within our Ionic application. Since we know that we now got two inputs, we can change this component to look more like this. We can pass in a title, we can pass in content, and if we are lucky, we should see an Ionic card exactly with our content. So you see, developing a library with Ionic components isn't actually too hard if you use the watch command from the Angular CLI, hook up everything locally with NPM link. Although you can't really test the component or the library without a project, it's super easy to just use it in one dummy example and then build it out and have live reload. It's just super cool, I think. So that was an example for a standard component that you might be used to in your application. Let's continue by adding some functionality to a service that is then used within our Ionic application. Once again, I will bring in a bit of code for our service, since I really don't want to type all of this today. Let's see if I get it wrong. Yeah, that shouldn't come from the public API, but from the devdectic. Yeah, that's just not true. From the module. Why are you not offering that auto import? Some days I really just, I don't know. Okay, what we want to do with our service is we want to get the URL that was provided for this package, and we use this to make an HTTP request with the base URL and API. Okay, this example is just really tied to the API I was using, a free API. I will show you the link. Otherwise, if you specify like the WordPress base URL, you can now use all these standard REST endpoints that you're used to, or you might have your own API and use those, or you have perhaps a staging or different environments that you can use. Then it's really helpful to inject your configuration like this. You could pass in all other values, of course, as well. Now let's go back to the Ionic application, because I really want to show you all of this in basically lifetime, live reload, whatever you want to call it. So we inject now within the homepage our devdectic, what was it called, lib service. And do I get autocomplete? Yes, I do. So what we'll get back from the API is actually a user. Let me see where I created the code up front. I never created this up front. Interesting. Yeah, Simon, please do better next time. Anyway, we can do this. At this point, my code completion actually wasn't working great in the past. I'm excited to see how it works this time. Yeah, exactly as I was expecting it. So sometimes with a watch and Ionic Surf running, it's not really picking up the updates. For example, right now, we should see that we have a getData function on our devdectic lib service. We don't see it. We can use it since we know how to use it, but I think we will get like the underlines all the time. Perhaps I would have to kill the watch command and run it once again. I'm actually not sure how I did it in the past. So there's, well, it's just a bit annoying, but we got a lot of other benefits with this live preview, so I think you can handle this. So we will get back a user, some results here. Let's also lock this out. Oh, what was that? And by now we haven't actually specified the base URL. Let me open my old workspace as well at the same time. I will just keep it on my third monitor, which I actually have in my new home. And I see that it's actually the wrong project, but I think we can do it anyway. We go to our app module and we add to the array of imports the devdectic lib module. And now, do we get a code completion? Nope, of course not, because I actually don't know why. Is the rebuild? Yeah, that's already finished. Perhaps I will just run Ionic Surf again. Yeah, complain what you want. There is really something already for you. So you might have seen this in a lot of other cases. Actually, Ionic module for root is basically the same. We could now input like the back button default href or something like this. It's a configuration for the package that you're using. And that's really the same that we want to do. So hopefully my code completion works at some point. I just close the file and open it like 5 times, and then it might pick up what I want to do. So let's try again, devdectic lib module for root. Yeah, you're not really a huge help today, Visual Studio Code. So let me try and find my API URL quickly. Okay, I wasn't able to find it, but here's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to use this API, which basically returns one random user. So since we specified in our package inside the library already to use the base URL/API, we will just use this part to configure our library. What's wrong with you? We will check this out in a second. When I now find my Ionic application again, I can now tell to use the API URL like this. So let's try if that actually fixes the problem. Yeah, it actually does. We see a log from the devdectic lib, the API URL. That log comes from our service right here. And I'm not really using, or I'm not showing the result inside the Ionic application, right? So I'm really sorry to jump around between the two projects the whole time, but that's basically the workflow of developing your package. At least you got live reload, which is great, but it's about switching between those two projects a lot of times. So with a button, I will call the load data, and if I got a user, I will display the picture and the email. Still, we see an underline here. Let's try again. Yeah, it's definitely there. Let's try. You see, I definitely get the data from my package, so not really sure why it's not picking up the changes. It works in the end a lot better if you publish it to NPM. This local symlink is never a perfect solution, but it works in most of the cases to have a quick preview of your application. So to recap, for the service, we implemented the service inside the library. We used the libconfig service that we also specified inside the module. So people are now able to pass in an API URL. You could extend this with a lot of different flags that users could then set for your package, and you can access that information like we did here by using the config. And since we got the TypeScript interface, we can easily access it. Now, that was a standard component and a service. Now let's do one more thing. That is a bit more complicated, and that is to show a whole custom page. There was a question below the last video when we did this, and I found this kind of interesting because right now we just have a page. And Ionic pages usually consist of also a routing file and a module file. So let's go ahead and just create them in here. Maybe we could even do this with the CLI, but I will rather do this by hand now. So let's first of all create a custom page routing module. This usually for Ionic application looks like this. We have a routes array with one default route. It uses the custom page component. And then we call router module for child routes. Then we maybe also need a custom page.module.ts. So we really want to fake how Ionic pages look like. This is really how they look like. They got the imports. We import the routing module, and we also declare our custom page component, and then we got a custom page module. Now we will revisit the top level of our app where we export all the stuff. That's why I removed this or not added the custom page in the beginning here, because we will now use the custom page module instead of the component. And we're also not adding it to the module here, since I found that we don't really need it. It's enough to add it in here. So we created the routing and the module. We added the export to our general public API export, and then we can create the page. On that page, I also wanted to show you one more thing that I found interesting. This is just standard Ionic, how pages look. And I also wanted to show how you could also use your own styling with CSS variables. So I created the div with a custom class, and if we go to the CSS file of our page, we could now define that for the custom box, we want to use as the background either the CSS variable custom background or this color as a little fallback. And now we want to integrate this page in our Ionic application as a whole page that we can navigate to. And on top, I also wanted to have lazy loading. All of this in combination wasn't too easy, but in the end, I'm kind of surprised that it works. Because usually I saw for other or all the examples that you need to directly use component and then use like the custom page component directly from your package. That also works fine, no problem with that approach, but I still wanted to have lazy loading. So instead of following what people said online, I just import my own devdectic lib in here and then use the custom page module, not component. We want to use the custom page module because we know that the custom page module at this point really exists. So in order to navigate to the custom page, let's just quickly add a button in here with a router link to the custom page. And then I'm actually kind of excited to see if it now works on the first try. You don't know. You know nothing, Jon Snow. This is just wrong. So as I said, sometimes the watch is kind of out of sync, or Ionic is not picking up the changes, or just something goes wrong. Perhaps closing Visual Studio Code and opening it again might already fix those problems as well. Could be the solution. But I will just try to run this one again. So that changed. Now the Ionic application should also change once again if it's picking up the changes. You can actually see the module within node modules. What was the name? Devdectic lib. BCD devdectic devdectic. Hello, you there? There. We actually see the arrow here. So we see the custom page module is definitely included in here. Custom page routing, module, component, everything should be included. So I'm kind of optimistic that it works now. Yeah, no error, that's a good sign. And we see we have opened a whole page from our library. So imagine you have like a standard settings page for your company applications or standard information about anything. You could easily include that as a whole page in your library and just use it in your Ionic application with the right routing and even with lazy loading. I'm really kind of happy that this works. Really not sure the underline. I think last time I used this, the underline wasn't going. But if you install this from NPM, once again, actually the underline will disappear. Now, finally, on top of all of this, so you see I'm really excited today about all of this because it really is exciting. On top of this, we now want to inject styling into our library. And of course, we do it the Ionic way by using CSS variables. We use the selector of our custom page. If you don't know the selector, just look here, dev custom page, there we go. And we defined a CSS variable named custom background, or as a fallback, this super cool color, but now we want to use our cool blue instead for that component. And then we trigger the reload, and it is blue because our CSS variable is now used inside of that page. It's really amazing. Insert Steve Jobs clip. Now, what we did is we got our component here. We are able to use a service. We're even able to use a custom page. And in the end, you might just want to publish your library. That's, of course, possible. What you need to do is you run the ng build -- prod. I'm actually not completely sure if you need the prod build, if it makes any change. And because this might just take too long, I'll just show you the result. Yeah, that's my node warning. Perhaps we'll even wait. No, I don't want to wait. You just navigate into the dist folder, into your lib or whatever you called it, and then you run npm publish. If you receive an error, make sure you run npm login before, so you're logged in. And then npm publish will actually publish the whole package. And because I'm well prepared, I did this up front. So here you see the amazing devdectic lib package. You can now run npm install devdectic lib. I could run the same inside my Ionic application. Let's maybe just do this quickly to end this. If I find the right folder, so then all the errors might be gone as well. Npm install, yeah, and the devdectic lib. Perhaps you might have to run npm unlink first because you're linked to the local version, but I think by now running npm install for the devdectic lib will add the dependency inside the package.json like it did this here. And in node modules, let's quickly check it out. A, B, C, D. It's still looking like a symlink. Maybe we could run npm unlink up front, but I actually feel like this is fine. I'm not sure. Well, not a huge problem. But in general, your package would be published to npm now. If you want to create an update for this, simply make the changes to your lib project, and then within the package.json increase or change the version, and also maybe specify a more helpful README than I did. This is just the standard README for the Angular library. But as you can see, you can install it. You can completely use it the same since we use the local version. There's no difference in the local version. You just might encounter no errors anymore like we did inside the app routing. And there you got it. It's super easy to build your own library with Ionic components. Just think of the options are reusing a lot of code inside your company, or perhaps you find yourself building the same tools over and over for client applications that you build, or even for your own applications. You could put all of that into a library, You can add a configuration like we did with the API URL, so you can even inject some information from the app site directly into the library, or use CSS variables to style pages, components, or any part of your library. I hope you really enjoyed this part. It was kind of complicated to create it, so I hope you don't run into too many problems with this approach, and then you're able to once again save a lot of time and build great Ionic apps. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and stay subscribed so you get notified about all the new tutorials, quick wins, and other app development and web development videos on this channel. If you want to learn more about Ionic with in-depth courses, a community of like-minded developers so you can learn and build your apps faster, you should definitely check out the Ionic Academy, which is my code school to help you with everything Ionic, with a huge library of courses, material, and a supportive Slack channel so we can get your app out. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you inside the next video. Have a great day and happy coding. Simon.